G'day, my name's Rob Hamilton and I'm about to tell you a small part of the life of Ron Deveer. Ronald Adrian Deveer was born in Geelong in Victoria on the 22nd of January 1971 to Frank and Betty Deveer. Frank and Betty were immigrants from Holland and Ron has two surviving sisters, Annemie and Fran. When he was 3 years old, his parents took him on a trip to Holland with his sister Fran for 3 months. And when they returned, Ron was speaking Dutch and English with a Dutch accent. Annemie remembers one of his favourite expressions, even as a young kid, was "I'll fix it," which was a sign of things to come. Ron was very active and determined boy, a real boy. He loved cars, and when he was 4 years old, he took off in his little red car and went missing for hours. He loved animals as a kid too, and was collecting pets, from a turtle, a blue-tongued lizard and birds. He grew up in Newcombe in Geelong, where he went to Newcombe Primary School, and being an active kid, he was always up to something. He loved to hang out with his mates and go riding around Geelong on their BMX bikes. He met and became great friends with Simon at an early age, and they would hang out together motorbike riding and camping. Ron went to Geelong East Tech in high school, and he was a good student with plenty of potential, but not really interested in working too hard in class. Ron always had an interest in cars, and after high school he became a motor mechanic apprentice at the local Toyota dealership. He also had his pet project, the yellow Charger that he did up in the backyard of his parents' house. With a love for rock and roll music, Ron started to learn the drums. Ron, Dave and Simon started their own garage rock band and had many jam sessions, making lots of noise and learning how to party hard. The garage band grew with the bass player Kaya joining them, and they soon began to sound pretty bloody good. Ron wanted to call the band Simply Rock. Ron, Simon, Dave and Kaya hung out together a lot. Camping, surfing, motorbike riding, but most of all partying. Plenty of beers and smoke was had, but most of all, plenty of fun. On the weekends, he'd make his way over to Barwon Heads and Ocean Grove to ride his goat boat. That's a nickname for a sit-on surf ski. And Ronnie got pretty good at it too. One of the first times I ever met Ron was when Kaya and Ron decided to take me surfing down the Great Ocean Road in Victoria to Apollo Bay. Ronnie drove us down in a Ford Econovan around the very windy Great Ocean Road at a petrifying speed, and maybe just a little bit stoned. And out in the surf, I saw how good Ronnie actually was, because it was a big rough day and he did the 360 turn right in front of me. Ron was loved by everybody that knew him, and was best man at Simon's wedding, where he might have drank a bottle of vodka and then proceeded to throw up under the table. But Ronnie had itchy feet, and around 1992 he and Simon packed up the Charger, decided to make their way across the Nullarbor to Perth in Western Australia. I was already living in Perth at the time, and when Ron came over we started to spend plenty of time together. Ron moved into a share house in Acton Avenue in Belmont, and soon the house became known as a party house, and there were plenty of big nights that were had there. It was around this time that Ron met a bloke that would become his best mate to the end, Bill Socks. Ron was best man at 2 of Bill's weddings and also arranged the Bucks nights, and these were nights to remember, if you could the next day. Girls, drinks and good times. This is a few words from Bill. Ronnie was my best mate. He was also a lot of other people's best mate too, because that's who he was. He would listen to you babble on for hours, but if you needed to be told you were wrong, he wouldn't hesitate to correct you, and we loved him for that. He would also go to someone else's rescue as much as he would gripe about it, and I think he was secretly proud of the fact that he could fix anything, and he bloody well near could, much to the dismay of many workshop supervisors who had no idea how something worked and were embarrassed when he showed them up. He worked his way up the ladder from apprentice to tradesman to manager, and did exceptionally well at it all, winning awards and never afraid to challenge the norm. He taught me so much about literally everything, and I'm going to make sure his legendary quotes are not forgotten. My favourite is when someone asked what car they should buy, he would say, "Buy your favourite colour, so when it breaks down at least you'll be looking at it while you're waiting for the tow truck." When Ronnie went to go and live in Thailand, I was sad, but I soon realised how happy Ronnie was, embracing the challenge, and with Duan by his side, I've never seen him happier. I'm never going to get over losing you, buddy, but I'll never regret knowing you. You will live in our hearts forever. Bill, Janine, and all our extended family. The late 90s were filled with parties, music, and beers after work with mates at the Sandringham, where the back room had a men's only show on Friday nights that was very well frequented. Around 1997, Ron met Sandy at a work function, and they hit it off together, and this was the beginning of a 12-year relationship, and in that time, they shared some great times together. Sandy has 2 daughters that were young at the time, Natalie and Samantha, and Ron loved those girls and looked after them like a stepdad, spending heaps of times with them trying to teach them the ways of the world. Ron had quite a few jobs working in different motor mechanics workshops, and even a few times he worked for me. He eventually settled down with his work. From around 2002 he went to work for St John's Ambulance, where he stayed there until he left for Thailand. Ron rose through the ranks to become the workshop manager, and it has to be said that he didn't mind taking on the big bosses when he thought it was necessary. My family, Shaz, Jackson and Daniel, would often spend great times together with Ron, Sandy, Natalie and Samantha. We'd hang out for Christmases together, and jam nights, or for someone's birthday, or any good excuse to get together. We'd usually end up in a loud jam session where the neighbours sometimes got a little bit pissed off, but we had a blast. In 2004, Ron had got together enough money to buy his own house, where he moved in with his trusty mate Missy. He spent heaps of time renovating. New paint, new bathroom, new kitchen, but the outdoor area was where a lot of the fun was had. Barbecues, pool parties, and the occasional adults-only party. But no one will ever forget the yellow painted walls in the dodgy back room with the smoke-stained ceiling, and the bar where all of his mates would come and stand around drinking, smoking, laughing, debating. It was well known that Ron liked to have a discussion/debate/argument, and as Bat said, he wasn't always right, but he was never wrong. But that back room became a meeting place for all of Ronnie's extended family to drop in for a drink and a chat. Around 2012, Ronnie met up with Bob, Cameron and Darren, some of the boys from the Red Cliff, and soon after that the Barnacles were formed, a loud rock band, and Ronnie was playing guitar with them. The boys played a few pubs and gigs around town, and Ron was proud to be rocking again. It was around this time that he decided he wanted to take a trip, which, by the way, he had about 1,000 hours of leave up his sleeve because he hadn't been away anywhere in a long time. So his choice of destination was Thailand, and when he came back he was hooked. After that he planned the next few years around his trips away to Thailand. Ronnie had a bit of a routine in the last few years in Perth. On Mondays he'd hang out with Maddie, Tuesdays he'd come over to our place, Thursdays was with Nev, and in between he'd be hanging out with Bill, helping out with the sprint car, and then the rest of his great mates. But after a few years and a few trips back to Thailand, Ronnie would come over and we'd spend Tuesday night standing in our kitchen and talking about his plans to move to Thailand to open a bar. Ron opened the first double shot bar on the 10th of April 2017, and it was a success straight away, with people from all around the world coming to have a beer with Ronnie. A little bit later in 2017, Ronnie, who had been a regular visitor to the Genius Bar, had met Duan, and eventually he talked her into going out with him, and his butterfly days were over. Ronnie told us this one is different, but this time he was right. He had fallen for this girl, Duan. Ronnie and Duan worked together to get the Double Shot 2 up and going, and again there was a big success. Great friendships were made there, with many expats, locals and world travellers alike dropping in to have a drink with Ronnie. Ron was happy. He loved running the bar and chatting to everyone from all around the world. I just want to thank everyone who's helped put this together. Gone way too early. There were so many more laughs and beers to have and world problems to solve. We will all miss you, brother. Farewell and Vale, Ron Deveer.